You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now. You're not going to have black on you. Folks, in New Jersey, African Americans have been mobilizing and organizing to fight lack of economic progress in that particular state. You might remember us talking about Jacob Waltauer, who is, of course, Blueprint Capital. He's the CEO of Blueprint Capital, filing a lawsuit against the state of New Jersey over pension funds, the lack of African Americans managing money in that particular state. They've been highly critical of New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and Democrats who run that state by saying they're freezing African Americans out. Well, Reverend Dr. David Jefferson, he has partnered with other preachers and others in New Jersey to found the New Jersey Black Economic Justice Coalition. Over the last couple of months, I've actually participated in a couple of Zoom town halls with them to raise awareness to this, and he joins us right now. Pastor Jefferson, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey.
For people who don't quite understand what we're talking about here, New Jersey is a very democratic state. You have places like Newark and Camden and others where you have black leadership. But when you talk about the money, and it always comes down to the money, black folks are absolutely being left out of the economic prosperity in New Jersey.
Absolutely, Roland. And let me just say thank you, man, for what you're doing, the attention that you're drawing to this issue. It is perhaps one of the most critical issues, Roland, in our country today. When you have, quote, 1% of individuals in this country, Roland, owning 99% of the wealth, you know right then and there that over the years we have had some inequities and lack of inclusion. All the way back to, if you read, Where Do We Go From Here? Crisis or chaos. Dr. King talked about in that book an economic revolution that we needed to have in order to balance the playing field and level the playing field in this country. And I would have to say to you that when you look at New Jersey, we have one of the highest tax rates in this country. The disparity that exists between white and black folks in the state of New Jersey when it comes to average income, $9,000 average for a black family, $217,000 for a white family. Tell me, how do you make it in a state where the income or where the economy is some of the highest in the country? And I would submit to you that New Jersey is definitely struggling with this, and we're causing people to come together. But Roland, I think the first thing we have to do, man, is educate the public. We got to educate the public. We got to equip people to engage in this revolution, because at the end of the day, the next generation will be impacted significantly if we don't get some real grip around this issue. So, the New Jersey Black Economic Justice Coalition has come together to not only shine light on this, but to put pressure on individuals that we have elected who are supposed to be with us in bringing about economic justice in the state of New Jersey.
Now, right now, every office holder in New Jersey is up for election. What have y'all been doing to drive this point in challenging them as they're trying to campaign for votes? How are you empowering the church members to have the information? What are the pastors challenging them with? And have you actually heard from officials make any concessions or meet some of the demands?
I would say that right now we're still in that real getting the information out. We have articles that we put out. We've had op-eds that we put out. We've held to date at least 4 major town hall meetings where we can put it where the goats can get it. Most of the people can't even relate to the whole notion of disparity, where the money is going, and why African Americans are not getting their fair share. We put Phil Murphy into office with 94 to 95% of the black vote. That is the highest number of black votes any governor in the history of New Jersey have ever gotten. And this governor ran on a platform of economic fairness. So we have to educate black people that you have to make sure that when you vote, you are putting your vote where we can get an economic return and not that you just always vote Democrat. And we have to continue the grassroots effort in order to make sure our congregants understand that. And so we have another major town hall that is coming up the end of June, where we will have black preachers on there across the country. We're reaching out to Bishop T.D. Jakes. We're reaching out to Dr. Franklin Richardson, who had the Council of Churches, because we're going to bring black preachers together in a huge town hall along with their congregation so that our people who sit in the pew can really understand where their money is going and how they should really vote. If black people had not turned out to vote for Phil Murphy, Phil Murphy would not be a governor today. And I would admit that I think we have that same situation with a number of people around this country. And by the way, let me just say, that this whole notion of the pension fund in the state of New Jersey is the same across the country. We only have a small percent of asset managers, black asset managers, who have a small piece. I think Robert said it's like 1.5% to 2% across the entire country. So this is not just a New Jersey issue. This is a national issue for which we need to get our arms around.
And in fact, in one of the town halls that we did, that we streamed, John Rogers of Area Capital Management was on there, and this is what John had to say.
Again, it comes back to us. I tell people all the time that we wouldn't have lost the Ebony Jet Building here in Chicago if we had people working in major consumer products companies insisting that the advertising go to a black company like Ebony or Jet, or Black Enterprise, or WBON Radio, what have you. But we sit there and allow this to happen. And so, I know you know this, 17 years ago, we started a conference called the Black Corporate Directors Conference with Charles Tribbett from Russell Reynolds. And the whole concept was started because I noticed that there were very few Leon Sullivans in the boardrooms of corporate America, people willing to speak out and make change. So conference has grown from 30 directors to last year, before COVID, we had 300 directors come together. And we've had everyone come and speak, from Barack Obama to Jamie Dimon to Ursula Burns to Don Thompson. We've had Magic Johnson, which has been an extraordinary success story, the kind of speakers we get. Usually 7 CEOs of giant companies. Robert's been there. David Rubenstein's been there. It's just been a wonderful thing. But what we do every Friday night, we have what we call the conscience of the conference. Someone to remind us the responsibilities that we have to fight for economic justice once we're in the boardroom. So over the years, we've had Harry Belafonte, we've had Andy Young, we've had Congressman Clyburn, we've had Reverend Sharpton, we've had Reverend Jackson, Sherilyn Ifill, Valerie Jarrett, people who are committed to our community. They're going to be willing to show us how to fight for economic justice when in the boardroom. And that's always been the highlight of that conference. Again, having those folks who actually marched with Dr. King or believed in Dr. King's movement. And because too many of us directors get in that boardroom, we're just happy to be there, to collect the checks, not make anyone uncomfortable, hope that nothing changes. But if we don't speak out, we're actually giving cover for the status quo to stay the same. Because the white CEO sits there and says, well, I've got a black director, they're not saying anything. Things must be okay. It gives them an excuse to not fight for change. So again, I keep coming back to this. It's up to us to fight in that spirit of John Lewis. And again, make good trouble. Point out.
Hey, Jennifer, thing right here before I go to my panel with questions for you, Pastor Jefferson. Why we created this segment? And I've had some black folks. It's amazing to me. Say, why y'all sitting here begging white folk for money on the advertising side? And I'm sitting there going, dumbass, $170 billion is being spent every year, and black-owned media is getting 1%. And you're asking why will we demand that when we are nearly 12% of the people who buy General Motors cars. We are 40% of the people who spend money at McDonald's. We are spending billions of dollars at Target. Billions of dollars at TJ Maxx, billions of dollars with Apple and with Samsung, and we can go on and on and on. And you're sitting here wondering why we should not be getting it back. This is why Black America is broke. This is why our civil rights organizations really can't stand up for black folks fully because corporate America is funding them and we can't. This is why our HBCUs are underfunded because we also can't give back. If we are able to increase dramatically the investment in black-owned companies, then we have the ability to also hire and pay wages and all of those different things. And so, hell yeah, we're gonna be demanding this.
And I have to say this. This is the same thing that Dr. King faced when he wrote the letters from the Birmingham jail. The letter that he wrote was centered around why we can't wait, because you had individuals on the sideline who was saying that, hey, the timing is not now, and why are you creating all of this friction? What we have to do, Roland, is teach people to follow the money. Those advertising dollars that are being spent that are not coming to, quote, black media, those dollars are going to those places, and it's our people who are buying those goods and services. And so the question is, why shouldn't a percent of that money go to black media? The same thing is true as it relates to the pension fund. That money goes to major white Wall Street firms. Those Wall Street firms then engage in major white developers who come into our communities and therefore put things in place, and they get funded, by the way, by the state, because the states in many instances match that, okay, with certain credits. And the next thing you know, our people cannot afford what is put in place. And so what we're doing is gentrifying our own communities. And then we start hollering about why in the world can't our people afford that? And what we have to do is teach people to follow the money. And here's the other thing. We have to start turning the heat up and challenging people look like you and I to get off the side.
What's the audio issue, guys? I'm hearing this. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
We have to challenge our black elected officials to come with us, get off the sidelines, and let's really get equipped to stand together to get our fair share. We cannot have people saying, I would get in, but I am afraid of what I might get by way of retaliation. I'm afraid that I might not get funding for this. We have to help people to understand it's not just about them, it's about the next generation and the sacrifices that we have to make. That's the problem. The problem is that we do not have individuals who are willing to get in the fight. And we got to encourage people to get in the fight and be willing to take the risk. Here's what I know. Risk and faith go together. And if we say that we're faith-based leaders, if we say that, quote, we really trust and believe in God, we got to take some risk. There's no way in the world you can have faith and don't take risk. And there's no way in the world you take risk and don't have faith. Those two things go together. And guess what? We have the power in the pew. And I honestly do believe Dr. Leon Sullivan really was able to do what he did because he had the backing of the congregation that he was with. I can go on and on with respect to ministers who have done this, and we have to rally the church. I am reaching out to all of our pastors, to all of our leaders, and basically saying to them, those elected officials come to our churches. They come to the places where they know the numbers are. Then why don't we go to where the numbers are? If we can help further other people's careers, we have to have those people then make sure that they are furthering the careers of Black people. And we have not been successful in doing that. And I think the timing is absolutely now. And I think you're drawing attention to the issue, and we're going to get more people involved.
Julian?
Robert, data show that African Americans disproportionately work for municipalities, cities, states, the federal government. Uh, for Black women, almost 20% of us in those kind of occupations. So those are our pension dollars that we're talking about, our pension
Yes,
dollars that are sitting there. So the question becomes, in terms of pension fund governance, are there opportunities for workers to participate in pension fund governance, or who is involved in the governance of pension funds in New Jersey? And is this a possibility for a legislative fix to ensure that at least one pension fund worker is on the pension board?
absolutely. We have not had a person of color hired into that hierarchy in the last umpteen number of years. We haven't even had a Black treasurer in the state of New Jersey since the inception of the entire state. And so we have not had Black representation there, and people have not understood that. And you're absolutely right. I asked my congregants one Sunday, and we have 3 services. How many of you all have money in the pension fund? Close to 60% of the individuals raised their hand. Those individuals right now have no say, but they don't know that they don't have any say unless pastors like myself understand this economic picture and begin to educate them. Until we have people positioned like you're talking about right now, and people knowing that we make up a good 13, 14, 15% of this pension fund, you're talking about $80 billion pension fund in the state of New Jersey, one of the largest in the country. And we literally have no representation. We literally have no voice, and we literally have no input as to where that money is going. That is a crime. I mean, that is absolutely, and from my perspective, totally unacceptable. And I would admit to you that I think a number of other states are the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Omakongo?
Reverend Jefferson, you made a powerful argument for why we need to have more of our Black leaders involved, and I really commend the work that you're doing with your church and other churches. And you also talked about the government's response. I'm wondering, in New Jersey, what is the response from the corporate entities, particularly in this post-George Floyd era where people have made more commitments to finances and diversity, and they're like, have they been hostile to you, or have they shown a commitment to work with you, or are they just feigning ignorance right now?
They have not been hostile, but they have also not worked with us yet. And we have something afoot to bring them to the table. Here's the real deal, and here's what's going down. What is absolutely going down is this. We have individuals who are at the point of pain, but have no understanding as to how they can get out of where they are. And if you really think about this thing, there is nothing afoot right now to balance this thing. There's nothing afoot. We have to have some kind of legislation, and that's what we're going to put on the table of the governor. Before Phil Murphy get elected, we're going to make this issue so big. And Dr. King puts it very clear in his book. He says you have to bring direct action in order to get relief. He said the last thing that you want to do is protest, but you have to indeed draw attention to the fact that someone have their knee on your back or on your back. And so what do we have to do? We got to bring about direct action. If we bring about no direct action, things are going to continue the way that they are right now. You know, we like to romanticize Dr. King, but my question is, how many of us are absolutely living the dream and bringing about some of the change that he talked about? You know, every birthday, every day, his assassination day, all over the country and all the networks, we're going to play that up. And guess what? We are still having a knee on the neck economically, and we are not moving this needle. But I would say to you that we're bringing about the pressure, and I really have to kind of give Roland some kudos here because, man, if you don't bring attention to it, I'm telling you right now, we'll never get the change that we absolutely need.
Avis.
I think this issue is so incredibly important. And I think it's important that we understand as a community that we can be focused on more than one thing at the same time. It seems like in recent years, and understandably so, there has been a lot of focus, for example, on criminal justice issues and a lot of energy around protesting in that space. Do you foresee an ability to sort of find some sort of hook, some sort of link that would energize the Black community around this movement with anywhere near as much fervor as we're seeing in those more sort of just direct violence types of cases where people are seeing a threat to their lives? How can we do a better job of emphasizing the importance of economics? Because I would argue that in many ways, that's killing us too.
Man, you're so right. I mean, and here's the thing. First of all, thank you so much for asking the question. I think the challenge is exactly what Roland kind of positioned up front, and that is Black people saying, why are you folks doing this, or why are you doing that? It's almost like we have to beg for what is rightfully ours, when indeed we're spending huge dollars, whether it's in taxes, whether it's with companies, you name it, we are spending huge dollars. I think that one of the places we have to focus is also on young people. When we even start to talk about this notion of forgiving, let's say, college debt for young people, do you know how important that is? And I think that we've allowed then the Democratic Party to start moving away from that, when really, do you not know that if that debt is forgiven, that's a mortgage for a ton of our young people? When you're coming out of school economically a slave, I mean, and I use, slave in terms of in debt. When you're coming out of school with that kind of debt, do you know how long it takes to get any kind of equity, to get any kind of investment? So I think we have to also focus on young people and put some attention on those places where they have enormous interest and try to build it with them as well. And I also think that we just gotta hold people accountable. I just think that we gotta lean in, and we just gotta stay at it. I don't think there is an easy solution here. As our coach at Grambling State University, and I'm wearing my Grambling cap, used to say, as Coach Rob used to say, it's 5 yards in a cloud of dust. We're gonna have to grind it out, and we're gonna have to get it on social media, because in many instances, the main media might not carry the story. But guess what? We got a Roland Martin unfiltered, man. Thank God for that, because we're going to get it out in any way we have to in order to make sure that we draw attention to this issue. We're going to have another major town hall. And for the first time in a long time, we're going to have a huge economic justice rally that I've already gotten a ton of the civil rights folks, a ton of pastors. We're going to have a huge economic justice rally in the city of Newark, New Jersey, bringing people from all over the country so that we can put some real media, some real attention, and some real focus on this issue. This is the future of our community. If we don't win this, I gotta tell you, it's going to be a long time before we get any equity in the country.
Absolutely. So be sure to let us know when that's going to take place. Because certainly we'll be interested in live streaming it. Folks need to be fully aware of it. So, Pastor David Jefferson, we certainly appreciate it. New Jersey Black Economic Justice. First of all, go to njbej.com, folks, njbej.com for more information on what they're doing there in New Jersey. Folks, we're talking about billions of dollars that we don't get. That's what the whole issue is.
Would it be, Roland? Would it be?
All right. Pastor, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.